Hello, welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I'm Josh Hayes. That's Scott Moon. Contrary to what I know everybody is already shouting, we're not
Salmon.
It's salmon, not pink. And it was not orchestrated at all. Not
No.
one.
Which says a lot about how much we wear pink that we can actually randomly both wear it at the same time.
It's salmon.
It's salmon. This is it's like a police fire department breast cancer awareness shirt. I've had it. It's like one of the most comfortable shirts I have. I wear it all the time.
Oh, no, I've got two of them. Because those back 2018, they had that drive, and we could wear those shirts under our.
Yep, I think that's where I got this one.
Our pink salmon uniforms back in the day. They were actually tan.
Who would have knew that cops were dying to wear pink secretly underneath their vest? Every one of us.
All of them.
I was walking up to Quick Trip one time. I was on duty, and a bunch of firemen got out of their truck, and they're all wearing pink. I said, "Somebody lose a bet?" Then I realized it was this. So
right.
They took it with good humor, because they know that.
Well, of course,
firemen, they're hose draggers.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to the live show. If you're listening on the audio feed, come and hang out with us on YouTube, Keystroke Medium. It's so much fun to do on the live show. Let's see. Corey
really
was the first comment of the day, and I have to say that his comment was very well. It's the best thing that happened on these days. I mean,
sometimes there you go. Clap, double clap for the good quote. I'm at I need a message, Rick, real quick while you're talking.
Are you dead?
Where the hell are you, dude? I'm about to send somebody to check your welfare.
Keith Taylor says he's wearing a salmon-colored shirt too.
Yes, the Salmon Tuesday crew.
Walt says,
that sounds horrible.
I was the first comment of the day. Well, fun fact, you are the first Facebook comment of the day. So
see, now we're giving double prizes.
I think this counts. We'll give a half a clap. What do you like? Wave your hand back and forth real fast, and that's a half a clap.
Yeah, what's that? One hand, the sound of one hand clapping. What was that? That was in some sort of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. Like it's the sound of one hand clapping.
Rick says I and biking is what.
Oh, I just messaged him, so he'll probably wreck when he reads that.
What's up, Lou? What's up, Keith? Everybody, hello. We are excited to do this show. I love Wreck-It Ralph. We're going to break down some of the story aspects of Wreck-It Ralph, the movie, from a writer's standpoint. One of the things that sometimes I think kind of gets lost in translation is like some writers will be like, that movie was horrible because this, and this. And then some fans are like, yeah, but we don't care. It's kind of like Endgame. There's a lot of people that were hating on the time travel aspects or some of the writer aspects of Endgame, and I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because that movie made $1 billion. Right? Like the people
were entertained. They met the gladiator. Are you entertained? Isn't that what he says?
Right. Are you not entertained?
Right.
By the way, if
so many people dying
loud, or if you guys are having some, let us know. We've tweaked some of our sound settings. So if we sound a little different or a little loud, let us know in the live chat. Maybe we can.
In our sound check, I was giving Josh a hard time about how loud he was, and I realized it's obviously something on my settings because when we played the intro music, it nearly killed me. I almost died right here. It was close.
Well, if I can nearly kill you with the intro music, then success.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
He said, "Don't do the half clap. You look like you're having a seizure."
Yeah. Here, put your hand up there. I'll clap it with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Clap.
That's a little too weird.
So we'll do the updates and we'll move through those, and then we'll get into talking about the show. I'm going to go first this week because I can. I am this close to having Trank 2 wrapped up and sent off to the publisher after getting the minutes and different things worked out on that manuscript. I think the story is fantastic. We'll have it submitted. I think the pub date is about August 10th, I think is the set date for that. And so that's fun. Got some interesting kind of news, not news, that's secret. So this is the vague booking that I'm doing for this show. I got a cool phone call Monday morning that I had, and
with who?
It's a super secret, Scott. A super secret phone call on Monday morning, and
where was the phone call from?
Interesting news. So I'm going to vague book about that for a while because that was kind of cool. And when I can talk about it, then I'll reveal the secrets.
That's so exciting.
It's secret news only news. Yes, it isn't secret news only to news to What is Walt have another cup of writer's block?
It's only news to you.
To news to
it's
you.
Not news to us because we don't really have any information. The information requires
to me. You guys can just speculate.
Right. We're speculating.
Everybody make up what they think the thing was on Monday.
Oh God, you don't want that.
Like make up what you think it is, and then I'll pick the best one, and we'll pick from there. So I'm almost done with Trank 2. I'm going to start working on Sentinel, which is a Savage Stars, not Savage Stars. I'm about 30,000 into that, and so once I get Trank 2 done, I'll be working on the outline for Trank 3, and then starting to work more on Sentinel. Let's see, what else? I don't know. My updates are secret news. I'm not getting a head shave. I'm not doing that. Josh just gave us a blank check. Yes, this is the first time in Keystroke Medium history I've ever given anybody a blank check
to write something of valor.
It's
a blank check of valor.
Secrets of valor.
When I looked over, and so when you post something, I don't know where Rick posted, but I just saw it on the YouTube. It says "I am biking," and I wasn't really paying attention. I thought he said "I'm in a bikini." And I was like, "Why would you tell us this, Rick? I don't need to know that."
Yeah. I mean, more power to you, Rick.
And my question was, is it a pink salmon bikini? Because that's the color today.
If it isn't, then he's wrong. I'm just saying. I don't have much else. I haven't watched the new Black Widow yet, even though it came out. I want to. Kind of came out to mixed reviews, I guess. So we'll see if I get to watch it this week or not.
I got some pushback from the family when I realized I had to pay another $29 for it. She's like, we can wait till October.
You know, it's crazy because the same thing happened when Mulan came out, on Disney. And my argument's the same now as it is then. You'd pay $30 to go to the movie theater with 4 people to see it in the movie theater.
Right.
And you don't have to go anywhere. You can just sit at home.
But we chose to watch the director's cut of Justice League because we hadn't seen it yet because it's free, and that was painful.
Dude,
I was gonna say it.
I had to watch that. I think I watched it like 3 or 4 sittings.
Yeah, we only got about a third of the way through it. I was like, anyway, so that's another story. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Probably better get back on topic here.
Somebody had a interesting take out all the slow motion that was in that movie and like cut out all the slow motion or make the slow motion like regular speed.
Right. True-mo. Normal mo.
I think I need
life mo. You need some more coffee. I haven't had any coffee yet today because I may take a nap after this. Who knows?
But yeah, it was super 4 hours long. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. There's some there's one movie. Have you ever seen what is it? Kingdom of Heaven? You ever seen that movie? Kingdom of Heaven?
That's the one, the middle-aged movie with it's Legolas, not Legolas.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But anyway, so I watched that first one. It was all right. But actually, that's the only movie I've ever watched where the director cut is like literally 20 times better. It's so much better than the director's cut because the story makes so much more sense. Whereas like with Justice League, it's just like they just added some backstory scenes that were slow. I'm like, that doesn't really make the movie more exciting. But anyway, we're really sidetracking early today.
That's what we awesome. Do. Anyway, give your update, Scott. What do you got going
on? I like to read Keith Taylor's speculation on your secret news. Secret news: newly unclassified Pentagon files reveal the next book is actually a true story. Could happen.
I can't neither confirm nor deny.
You can't compete with normal craziness, though. They'd be like, "This is pretty tame."
And honestly, like stuff you would write about in real life, people would be like, "That wouldn't ever happen." You're done.
That would never happen. There's not one bear in this story. What's going on? Why don't you have a bear on your podcast? So I did see. I finished up Orphan Wars 3, sent off to the editor. I think that might have been last week's update. I've been pushing hard to get Blue Sun Armada 2 Crisis done. I sent most of it to the editor, and it's turned out to be a little bit longer. And I bring that up because I got to my outline, which is a more detail I normally do, and I was like, I still have a lot left in this outline. And so I readjusted, and the story was developing well. And so I rewrote the end of it, and I took all those things I thought I wanted to happen in this book, put them in the next book. Maybe we'll see how it goes to that. So that's exciting. Started working on Reaper 11, which I can't remember if we're doing it. I'm calling it Revenant Reaper. And I did the outline on Plottr.
Nice.
So I did the whole thing. It's a little less detailed towards the end, but it's a really good outline. I sent the outline over to Jeff Chaney, and he thought that was a really good outline. He's very excited about it. So I'm really getting down with that too when I have time. But once I get the Blue Sun Armada, I'm going kind of into Reaper mode, because I'm really going to double down on that.
Spread behind you. That's very nice.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't sure if I was going to put all 10 books on one wall, but I got all 10 of them on there. So, and then I'll start going down the next wall with the next series. And then I have some other books I'd like to get those posters made. But anyway, I was running out of room in the old office. Now I have room everywhere.
I've got 3 posters sitting back there right now that rolled up that I haven't put on the wall yet. I just I got a new computer desk today, which is part of my update that I'm stealing your update for.
You should do that.
Part of the office.
Stealing an update is tight.
Wow. I gotta hang those pictures. I had an old L-shaped desk, and I couldn't get my computer chair over far enough to be in line with the monitor of my old desk because of the L. And so I got rid of it and got a second standing desk. So I have 2 standing desks in the house. Yep.
So that I'll wrap up my update, because that reminded me of a couple of things I think is mildly interesting. So the other thing I've done is, you see all the sound panels. That was an experiment, and those are basically, I took the sound panels off my old office and I glued them to a poster board, and then I hung the poster board with these things. I had my oldest daughter run and get me a bunch of crafty stuff so I can hook this stuff up there. So I started putting those up. Now I need about 100 more of those so I can do this wall over here, because my son's playing Fortnite over there. You'll probably hear him because he's a very loud human being, especially when playing Fortnite. The other update that's kind of writing related that I've been doing is, for the last 3 days, I've done foam rolling every day, like, and not just a little bit. I mean, I set a time. I did a minimum of 10 minutes, mostly on my hip flexors and quadriceps, because that's what kind of tightens up my hips and things, but kind of everywhere. And I feel a little bit better. So that's something I've struggled with, hip pain and lots of other pain from all the sitting. Riders sit a lot, cops of course sit a lot too, and I also wear a big gun belt, which of course creases right across your iliopsoas muscle and a bunch of other things. It messes you all up. So I'm getting a little bit of relief there. I'm pretty happy about that. And then yesterday I started a 20-hour fast. I'm going to try to do that for a while. So I'm about 18 hours into my fast and not that hungry right now. You know, you had that pays, if anybody's ever done fasting, you can get on a big sidetrack with that. And people think it does all this magic, and maybe it does. But the main thing for me is it makes it really easy to plan my day and makes it kind of decision free. Like, this is what I'm going to eat. This is what I'm going to eat. And then I go to work and I don't eat the 18,000 donuts that somebody brought, or sit there in my office trying to get caught up on work, buying the little chips out of the snack bar for 50 cents. And I get done, I've eaten like 14 bags of chips. But if my plan is I don't eat at work, it should be easier. That's my thing. So I'm kind of liking that. We're going to see if that works. I'm pretty excited about it, because I use eating as for a lot of stress, and stuff like that. I used to chew tobacco for a long time, and I quit that about 2014. January 1, 2014 was my first day without it. And, and I'm kind of, not bipolar, like clinically, but, like most creatives, you're kind of up and down and stuff like that. So I eat for stress and fatigue. And so it's just embarrassing how I do. That's why I have to work out all the time, just so I don't balloon up. But
it counteracts your Snicker addiction.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Cause like when I say I eat candy bars at work, I'll eat like 4 or 5 king size Snickers bars, which are 500 calories a piece, in addition to meals. And then, the other thing I used to do a lot, and by used to, I mean like 2 days ago, I'd go to Quick Trip and be like, I really want a Snickers, but I kind of really want a Reese's. Yeah, and those normal size ones are lame. So I'll get a king size Reese's, a king size Reese's Sticks, a king size Snickers, then eat them all in the car on the way back to the station.
Do you ever get the Reese's peanut butter cup? That's the big one, but it also has Reese's peanut.
Yeah, I have done those. Those aren't my favorite. I like the ones that are like have the more extra peanut butter top on them.
Yes, I love those too.
But now they have one that's all peanut butter.
Yes,
and those are also good. But so yeah, I'll go.
Peanut butter ones taste more like cat, like in Easter when the Cadbury egg does
Mhm.
eggs. I like those better than the cups because they have like a more like kind of a sugary texture to them. And I'll eat the crap out of those eggs.
Yeah. So, um, and the thing is so what I was going to say briefly about intermittent fasting is I don't. It probably does. It's supposed to do a bunch of stuff for your hormone levels and this and that and blast fat. I'm not really doing it for that because I still believe that it just basically allows me to kind of decide what I'm eating in advance, and that's why I'm trying it. We'll see how it goes. We're going to Santa Fe this week, and that may be a challenge for that. So we'll see how that should be. We're taking a family trip.
Keith says his wife does intermittent fasting, so basically he does too.
That's a true fact. My wife was hardcore vegan for about 9 months, and so I was too, which was another interesting experience. But the problem I had with being vegan is that if you do it right, where you're not just if you're actually eating real food, you are in the kitchen like 4 hours a day making food.
Oh,
it's just ridiculous. If you want to eat anything that tastes halfway decent. So
Rick says I am type. So all right, Rick, I am type. I'm just kidding. He says I'm done biking.
I'm done biking. He's done biking. Put your bikini. Take
your bikini away.
He probably missed the pink bikini joke. So that's you have to go back and watch this later.
So let's talk about Wreck-It Ralph. I don't know if anybody watched it with us.
First of all, I am Wreck-It Ralph. I just let you know I break a lot of shit. So let's move on.
True. Wreck-It Scott.
Yep.
The reason I picked this movie is because it's very, from a writer standpoint, you can watch the movie and it's a fantastic movie, and then you can see where they set up things to have a very complete story, but also a very intricately woven story that hits all the check boxes of what you need for a complete and well thought out and straightforward story. I think there's only one part in this whole movie that I think was kind of ham-fisted, and I don't know that there is a good way to fix that. So as we get into this conversation, a spoiler warning, obviously, to anybody that's watching this show that hasn't seen Wreck-It Ralph.
It's been 9 years. You had your chance.
I'm saying we're going to spoil this movie. And if you don't want to have it spoiled, leave now and then watch it and then come back and watch the show, even though you'll miss out on the whole conversation if you leave. So it might be counterproductive.
You could also watch the show because that's, it's always right to keep watching the show. And then you could somehow time travel back and then watch it when it's unspoiled.
Or you can watch the show while you're watching Wreck-It Ralph.
On triple fast forward.
Yes.
I'm sure that would be very, very effective.
You'll learn a lot. Kayleen sidles in. Hello, Kayleen. How are
you?
Welcome. Okay. So I think one of the hardest things to pull off in writing any kind of fiction, any kind of genre, is an ending that not only makes sense, but also brings closure to the story and to the characters in the story. And that's one of the, I think, as a writer, that's the thing that I struggle with the most. And it's easy to do wrong. And so one of the things that I've learned over writing is the concept of writing backwards, and not actually writing from the end of the story and then writing backwards, but figuring out where you want to go and then setting landmarks across the story to get you to where that point is. And I do that in outlining. So while I'm writing, I know where I'm going, but even outlining, there's things that I come up with while I'm writing that I'm like, that's cool. We need to seed that in earlier. So we go back and draft and seed it.
Go back and throw something in there, make a note.
I would really be interested to talk to the writers of this movie to see how much time how many attempts, how many runs through the story it took them to, because they didn't do this in the first try around. That there was multiple people working on this, figuring out where to seed this stuff in at.
Right.
So while the ending is really hard to get closure, the beginning is super hard to get into the story without a lot of setup. That's just boring. I think like even in books, you have a lot of exposition that is unneeded. Even in movies, sometimes you have a lot of exposition that's unneeded. Hell, you could probably, like, even in Star Wars, you could skip the beginning scroll of Star Wars. You could skip that whole thing, even though it's kind of like an iconic.
It's
like,
iconic thing now. Yeah.
Star Wars. You could get rid of all that and just start the movie at the ship chase, and you would learn all the rest of it as you go.
So the interesting thing about that is, as far as it ties in what you're saying, setting up with that. So you have to have a hook, and you have to have immediate conflict. You have something the hero wants, whatever. And this is actually be a good example of the lie the character believes.
Yes,
it is. It's actually a good example of that.
It is.
But so it's interesting. So you have that immediate conflict in the beginning. It has to be interesting enough to get you moved into the story, but it also has to be able to be resolved, because the real conflict and stuff is actually not revealed yet, and they have to work together. And this they work really well together. So I think that's one of the things that really pulls it off for this movie.
In this movie, in the first, and I didn't mark all of the times, but for the beginning of this movie, essentially in the first 5 minutes of the movie,
you marked the times, because I can't even adjust my volume.
Yeah, no, I just paused it and wrote it down.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
So in the first 5 minutes of the movie, we get the intro and the setting. We establish Ralph's nature and that he's frustrated with where he's at. You get the alternate life that the game themselves, the characters have, that establishes that there's more going on behind their game. You feel the dissatisfaction that Ralph has with everything, and what he thinks he wants. And then you have a kind of seemingly unimportant thing, which is the bad guy affirmation right before the title comes up. And I wrote it down because it's a really good line, because it brings so much emotional closure to the end. And they say the bad guys, they're having this kind of bad guys anonymous meeting.
Right.
I'm
bad. I'll never be good.
Yeah, I am bad, and that's good. I will never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. Which is kind of funny, right? It
sounds ridiculous.
Sounds ridiculous. It's funny. It goes with what they're doing with the Bad Guys Anonymous, but it also brings closure to the end of the movie when that comes up again. And also at the 6 minute mark, kind of still setting it up, they establish this going turbo thing. And
I thought it was a throwaway.
Exactly. And it's not, there's no in-depth explanations. There's not really anything going on.
And it doesn't make you want an in-depth explanation. It's one of those things you accept, because it's not like, I have to know what that means. You're like, I kind of know what it means. Let's move on.
But you understand it's something bad, right? Like you understand that's not.
It's something breaking the rules. They're going outside the norm.
And all of that is established in the first 5 minutes of the movie, which is crazy, because that's an astronomical amount of data and information and story to pack into 5 minutes.
One thing I want to, just a little bit of a sidebar, and I'll go real quick before I forget it, is that I found it really interesting how it shows consequences it shows throughout the movie. It shows that what he was doing was actually very important, and that that people count on him to do his thing, even though it was the bad guy. Because when he's away, it shows basically the game fails because he's not there to be the bad guy in that game. Anyway. So,
well, and that's that I think that's that in and of itself sets up his character turn at the end. Like him not want, everybody is expecting him to do what he needs to do. That's the thing.
They appreciate him more. They wind up having a little bit of a change too by the end, because they realize that they're screwed if he doesn't come back.
Right. Hello, Lynn. How are you? Welcome to the show. Welcome in.
Hello.
Okay, so after the setup for all of that, we get what Ralph's mission is, and he learns that, talking like you're saying, when they set up the other characters of his game, and you learn their nature of the game, and then Fix-It Felix's nature of the game, then you have the setup where only good guys get medals. And the only way that you can be a part of this, which is what Ralph thinks he wants, is to be a hero. And then one of the characters bets him that he can't get a medal. And that, of course, sets up his journey to get that, which is interesting to me, because like a lot of stories have that MacGuffin, like this is what they need. But the metal in this case,
It's a red herring.
It's not even it's a red herring. It doesn't matter. The metal in the story, the metal doesn't matter. And even to Ralph,
it's actually a literal manifestation of the lie the character believes.
Right, exactly. So because it doesn't matter what kind of metal, he doesn't care where he gets it from. And this comes to this metal gaining aspect of what he's doing is the one part that I think is super ham-fisted in the movie, where he runs into that soldier in the bar and learns about the metal. That is the only scene in the movie where I'm like, you can tell that this needed to happen, and this was the way that they kind of forced it into happening. I think the only other thing that I only briefly thought about this, but the only thing that I could think of that could be like a better alternative to that kind of forcing Ralph into action by bumping into this Marine would be to kind of do what he does at the end when he sees Penelope on the side of the machine, is look out his game window and see Hero's Duty and see the medal on the Hero Duty game. So he could see it without having it like thrown in his face. But then he wouldn't have the armor of the soldier and he wouldn't be able to get into the game that way. So it's not a super easy route to go. And honestly, with that being like the only thing in the movie that I've found so far, it's not even really that big of a deal.
I didn't even mind that at all. I think it's actually not bad. I mean,
well, it's not horrible, right? Like,
yeah, I think if you do that, I mean, I think if you do him looking out and seeing it on the outside of the thing, then you've done it. You can't only do it so many times.
100%.
It's not bad to have a little bit of variety, but yeah, but even that, like you said, is not horrible even for you. And I didn't, yeah. So they did need to get it set up pretty quick, and they need to get the metal set up.
Right.
Yeah.
So then we go on to the other thing that I noticed is that they never really explain. They don't go into too much detail explaining the games, right? Like they don't explain Fix It Felix because you can see what it is. They don't explain Hero's Duty because you see what it is. And then they give like kind of the brief overview at the beginning of the game where like, this is the point that we have to do. And then they set up when it goes into Hero's Duty, when he breaks into that game, they set up the ending. They do so many things that set up the ending in this movie, like all the way through, that I think it's one of the best culminated endings of all these individual parts. Like say they set up the speech at the end. They set up the beacon here with this game. They set I made like 4 pages of notes because I'm crazy like that. They set up a turbo. They set all these things that like are little itty bitty things that you think, oh, the beacon is a cool way to get rid of the bugs, but then they bring it back around.
Yeah, it's interesting enough to get your attention, but not necessarily that you fixate on it, and then it comes back around. It makes sense. That's a really important aspect of how to lay those seeds and stuff. I was also very surprised with several things. Like I wound up liking Fix It Felix more than I thought I would. When I first saw him, like he's going to be super annoying, but I actually kind of liked his character. In the same way with what was the commander woman who with the big gun and everything.
I can't remember her name.
Their interaction I thought was going to be super annoying, but they actually came off very well.
Oh, I agree, and I think even the what was it? The throwaway, like she's got the most tragic backstory ever.
Yeah, I would move that forward as the ham-fisted, as more ham-fisted than the metal discovery thing. But
that is true. But it sets up the thing that that Fix It Felix says to her that flips her lid again.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is too is they don't waste a lot of time on it. I mean, they literally it's like 10 seconds that gives you a lot of information, and then you're right on with the story again.
So yeah, I think the progression of the story at this point has been smooth, and like they've just been. If you're watching it for the elements of the story, that's just jam-packed with things that carry individual plot lines, that carry character arc lines. kind of a lot about what we talked about the last couple of shows, with multiple character arcs in the story kind of converging and forcing other character arcs to kind of change and do different things. Like when Ralph trips over Cubert, and like, oh, that's funny, he tripped over Cubert,
and Cubert went blah, 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 made all the symbols.
But that leads directly to Felix following him into the game, right? Like that's a direct link to pushing Felix into action.
And it links to an interesting piece of character development for Fix-It Felix when he can speak Cubert.
Exactly.
Because it kind of makes you like him a little bit more, because he's kind of like a born identity guy. He's got some international he knows languages as well.
Right.
Fix-It Felix can do it.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not up on my Cubertese, which I thought was pretty funny. But then they bring up that turbo again. And I think at this time it was the second time that they'd brought it up. Still, they brought it up with no explanation. Cubert comes in and basically says something to Felix, and Felix like, Ralph's gone turbo. And the
but again, not pushy with it. So there's another nice seed.
Right. And it's just kind of a repetitive thing where you're in this point, with these things, you're kind of pushing the audience forward to be more more interested, like, this is a mysterious thing. I really want to know what happened with this turbo thing. And the thing I like about the turbo aspect of the game, of the movie, is that not only did they make it a mystery that you really wanted to know about, because this obviously has affected more than just a couple of games or a couple of characters in this game, is that they pushed it in a way that really didn't become the movie.
Right. It was like we were talking about, surprising but inevitable.
Yeah.
So when you reveal when the turbo arc is closed, you're like, of course. And you look back, you're like, that is so obvious, but you didn't, I mean, I'm sure lots of people probably figured it out right away, but I wasn't really looking for it. It didn't spark my attention because, like I said, it wasn't like such a big question that it got me sucked into that, but it was really important at the end.
It was super important. And it was, I thought it brought them, like, the conclusion of the movie just made it that much better, because you got these closures of, okay, now we know what turbo was. And it like I said, I could ramble about several parts of this movie because I as a writer, I love seeing when it's done well, because there's so many instances of when it's done horrible and you're like, come on. Like the Tomorrow War, when he's freaking fist fighting an alien. Blech. Let's see. So then they get into Sugar Rush, and Sugar Rush actually in the setup, there's a throwaway scene where the girl that had been playing Hero's Duty, which I thought was cool because they showed like the other side, right? They showed both sides. They showed the human player, and then they showed it from the game's perspective for that little robot AI that comes in, and that was
cool. Yeah.
But then when she walks away from that and walks to the Sugar Rush game, the one of the boys says, "We're not stopping until we've played all 9 racers," which is a complete throwaway line, but it also,
I didn't catch it.
It feeds into the plot of the movie. Like it was, you probably, like you say, you didn't catch it. Most people,
I didn't pick up on that.
And it just, and I have to go back and actually look. I wasn't looking at the side of the game. I was looking at the characters, the humans, and I want to see if you could see Penelope on the side of the game, because you might have been able to. I'd have to rewind it and look. So that was cool. Anyway, so then we get to Sugar Rush, and it was kind of a cool, like, I thought because they established Ralph's clumsiness, and they, like, while he's walking through everything, they established that nobody wants to be around Ralph because he wrecks everything and he's super clumsy. Yeah. That clumsiness directly results in the bugs kind of getting loose and breaking free, and that was kind of an inevitable thing that was going to happen, but it makes sense because Ralph, we've already established that he's clumsy.
But and he's also not a goof, because it establishes that he's clumsy, but he's also has some formidable skills, like being the bruiser, because like when he destroys the cake, he's like,
Yeah.
I don't break everything, and he smashes the cake.
Right.
And everybody's like, this guy is a big mad gorilla in our room, and he could kill us all. We better just try to get him to leave.
Right. Exactly.
Which will be useful when fighting bad guys. That sometimes you need the heavy.
That is true, and that comes back into play later.
Yep.
I think so. We get into Sugar Rush. We meet. Also in Heroes, do they establish that the bugs become what they eat, and
Right.
that was a
Very important
line. For they ate the gun, he became the gun, and you think that's a really cool, interesting aspect of what they do in the game. But again, that becomes a really important thing later.
And as soon as it breaks free of the ship, you realize this thing's gonna be some kind of weird mutant freaky bug.
Yeah. Okay. There's a whole bunch of other stuff we learn just about the world in general, about Sugar Rush. Then we meet Penelope, and the difference in the way they interpret what the metal is. Ralph sees the metal as the metal. Penelope sees the metal as a coin, because that's what she
needs.
Again, that's what she needs, right? That's what she wants, is the metal. But they don't explain why she needs it, which again, I think is one of the highlights of this movie, is because we know and we see these characters are making a big point to say, we need this, I want this.
Yeah.
But none of that's ever explained why.
That takes some discipline as a writer. And I think it's in Rennie and Brown. It's the one I quote all the time. It's self-editing for fiction authors, but they have a formula, and they call it ROE. Basically, it stands for resist the urge to explain. Because a lot of times you'll do better by not explaining so much. You have to. It's a fine line. We can come back to that.
No, I think that's a really good topic to touch on. Is that some things do need explanation.
You need enough, but not too much, for sure.
But like not pages, right? Like,
and I think that's where
a couple lines of this is what it is. I think that's.
Yep. But James McCormick says RUE.
RUE. Yep.
Yeah, resist the urge to explain. That makes sense now. For some reason, I haven't had food or coffee for like almost 20 hours. Give me a break, man. Actually, I have had coffee. That's a lie. But not for like 10 hours.
No breaks for you.
Mm-hmm. No soup, no breaks.
So you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Oh yeah. So just the resist urge to explain. What I was going to say is, a lot of times when you see, when your friend who's never written before gives you a book and says, I'm going to start writing, and you're like, and they have some obvious talent, but you're like, there's something not right with this. It's just kind of, it's not zippy. It doesn't grab me. It's slow. It drags down or something like that. And I think that is the most common mistake. And I know that I did it, because I can literally look back, and I still do it to a certain extent. I should do it less. All these mistakes we talk about, I still do them. I just do them less than I did, say, 40 years ago when I started.
And it's easier for you to see them when you go back.
Yeah. And they pop out, or if somebody tells you about it, you didn't see it, and you're like, oh God, I can't believe I did that. Right. But you can just tell. And sometimes even when you're editing, like, this is so freaking boring. And I'm like, yeah, all this is not necessary. And the thing is if you give them all the information, what is there for them to move forward to? And that's why they stop. That's why nonfiction is boring. They gave me the answer in chapter 1. Why would I read another 400 pages of this book?
100%. Well, it's funny because a lot of I watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, and most YouTube tutorials have like 5 to 6 minutes of, this is why I needed this tutorial, instead of just going straight into,
which I skip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So we talk about the difference in the coin and the metal, and then almost right after that is when we set up the race, and then we learn why she needs the coin so she can get in. This touches back to the we play with all 9 racers today line from before, when they set up that whoever the 9 people that finish this race first, they get the slots for the next day. And we know why she needs the coin. We don't know why she didn't have one before. And then when she shows up at the race, and King Candy says she can't be allowed to race, like, that sets up a question in your mind. Well, why not? If all of these people are racing just for spots in the race, how come she can't be allowed to race? It sets up that
and he does 2 different levels of deception that are plausible, to the reader, because at first he's like, you can't have a glitch, it'll mess something up, and then later he comes back and he tells Wreck-It Ralph it's going to destroy the game if she has a glitch, and then we'll all die. And those are both plausible, and you almost kind of think it really hides the fact that he's the bad guy, because you're like, he's actually making sense.
Well, for him though, if she does reset the game, he will die.
I know, but as a viewer, you think, oh look, we just saw the Wreck-It Ralph game probably go out because he's not there anymore. It went out of order. Right. And this game, if the readers watch it, or the game players start having all these glitches because she's literally named the glitch,
right?
And then they quit playing, and then it's the good of all. It's the Spock thing.
Very
good of the many outneeds the need of the few, blah blah. And so you think, well, he's not really a bad guy. He's actually made a pretty good argument. He's trying to make him do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of like you're saying, double lie, still pushes the why. Like, okay, then why is he still trying to race? Go ahead.
When you find out the real reason he's trying to keep her out of the race, it's like it said, it didn't explain it all the first time because first you learn he wants to keep her out of the race at all costs, and then you get a couple of different red herrings to why, but the truth is very different, and you'll probably cover that here as you move forward.
Yeah, no, and so that race, it does a couple of things. It explains why she was going after the medal. It shows King Candy and how he doesn't want her to race, and
how he races. Because at first I assume he didn't race, but I'm like, oh, he's in the race, which is important later,
right? So then it moves on again to the fourth reference of the turbo, and this is where we finally, after 4 references, this is where we finally get the explanation of what happened to Turbo. And this is where it's super, super inevitable. But like, I didn't pick up on it the first time I watched.
No, I didn't either.
But he took over another racing game. So this character Turbo,
he ruined another racing game. He tried to take over another racing game and ruined it. He tried to take over another racing game, which out of jealousy,
right? And so, like, this specific explanation should have pointed me straight at King Candy.
It should have.
Exactly what he did here. And then even when Turbo talks during that explanation, if you listen, you can hear King Candy. I mean, it's the same voice, right? Because obviously it's the same person. But you can hear, you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's the same voice that King Candy was using.
But you're not looking for that at that point, because you're focused on the medal's important.
Right.
Wreck-It Ralph getting his medal, whether or not, and you're focused on, is he gonna help his new friend, or is he gonna be selfish and do his own thing? And that's not gonna work either.
Right, exactly. The other thing that was interesting about the explanation is that Turbo glitches in the game, in the racing game that he takes over. He starts glitching in that game, and that also is it foreshadows stuff that happens later on in the movie.
There's another I can't remember if you got to this part. There's another foreshadow that shows basically he's a hacker, because he goes in and steals a medal.
Yeah, that's
have we got to that yet? That's when
it's on my next page. Yeah. So after the explanation, then we come back and we meet Ralph and Penelope in her hideout, which is the Mentos cave, which is interesting and funny because we know how Mentos reacts to Coke, and then we see those things happening, but also again sets up the ending without even really setting up the ending. Like there's been 4 instances now where they're setting up exactly what's going to make sense.
They're putting a piece in place for the ending,
right? And so then in the next scene, then what we're talking about, the game code, where he's inside the game code, manipulating it, showing that he's experienced in doing that. He's obviously done it before. And then when we pull out, we see the game code for Penelope in there, and it's not connected. And again, still there's no explanation to why.
You just know he doesn't want to race at all costs, including hacking the system, which seems very dangerous in this environment.
Exactly. Worst environment imaginable.
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple more scenes, and this is where he kind of twists Ralph's buttons, and he says, basically, if you allow her to race, the game will be
You're going to kill everybody in this game.
And basically twists him to go and prevent Penelope from racing. And what I think is really powerful about the scene where he confronts Penelope and says that she shouldn't race, he breaks her car, right? He wrecks her car.
Yeah.
This is the first time in the movie that he's willingly wrecked something that wasn't part of his game.
Yeah.
In his game,
he makes a conscious decision to betray her for her own good. And you could tell that it upsets him to do so. He does it anyway.
Right. Well, he does it. Yes, intentionally, but more to the point, like everything else he's wrecked up until this point, he's done on accident, except in his game where he wrecks the building. Everything else that he's wrecked in the movie it's been an accident. Everything.
Well, he made the racetrack. That's kind of wrecking, but maybe that's not. Maybe that's building.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah.
I'm just being
right
difficult right now.
But no, I thought, but
no, that's actually an interesting point that I hadn't considered.
Yeah, because his whole goal was, I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I don't want to wreck. I want to get a medal. I want to be the good guy. And this is the first time where he uses his bad aspect of his character in a way that he thinks is good. And I thought that was super powerful.
Even though he doesn't want to, and he's going against what makes him feel good,
right?
Because he wants to protect somebody he now values. He's like, yeah.
Anyway, so then he wrecks the car, and they've made a big point throughout the movie too of using the monikers good guy and bad guy. Like, I don't want to be a bad guy, I don't want to be a good guy. And here Penelope tells him, you really are a bad guy. Like kind of kicking him when he's down, right? Like that's not what he wanted to be, but now in the eyes of the person that he was friends with, he is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And this sets up this downward slide. I should have done this throughout the movie, and I didn't do it until kind of this climax really started. But the negative shift in the movie where now because he's got the medal now he has everything that he wanted at the beginning of the movie. He's got the medal. He gets back and he realizes that the building has been abandoned, but the character tells him, this is what you wanted. You now have a room in the apartment building. You have your medal. And he goes, this isn't what I wanted though, but it is exactly what he wanted. Right.
So now he's been, the lie that he believed has been exposed as a lie.
100%, man. 100%. And I thought, and in that shift, you realize that the movie's never really been about the medal. And this is where the tipping point is, where this is where he looks through. He sees that Penelope is on the racing game, and he knows, okay, something's not right in the other game. And he goes back. This is where we learn the answer to the code. And from this time on, it's about 3/4 of the movie through. From this time on, we really don't get any more mystery. From 3/4 on, all you get is answers. And you start answering all the questions that we set up in the first third of the 2/3 of the movie.
And that's really important when we talk about Larry Brooks and the story engineering. We've talked about the book several times, and he says that's the point. You can't do anything more after that because it will feel like a Deus Ex Machina, or it'll just suck. You have to have everything set in place by a specific time, and they nailed that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. And then also answering them in kind of an order that makes sense, but also you don't get all the answers in one block.
But you're definitely on the way.
Right. So you learn why he was messing with the code. You get the thing from Sour Bill when he says if she crosses the finish line, the game will reset. You get that answer. So we learn that King Candy was kind of telling the truth. It sets the next scene sets up that there are thousands of these bugs now, and then the final race starts. And so this is where I started making notes on positive, negative. A long time ago we talked about Avengers Endgame and how the ending climactic quarter of that movie, however long it is, has ups and downs that are really like positive, negative,
a little bit of its own arcs and stuff.
Right. So here at the final race, she joins the race. She's doing well, and that's positive. Then the bugs come out, and that's a negative.
Mm-hmm.
we follow her through the race. She's passing other racers. She passes the king, positive again, and everybody's like, yes, she's gonna win. And then Turbo comes out. This is where Turbo comes out and he starts glitching, and everything about the Turbo quote and the game jumping on all this stuff gets answered, and we know King Candy is Turbo. And even though the audience now has an answer to what has happened in the Sugar Rush game and where Turbo went, it's a negative, because now we know, like, he ruined the game, he can potentially ruin this too, and he's basically he has beaten Penelope in this small instance of time.
And there's some final complications, which you're probably going to talk about, so I won't dive ahead, but there's a couple of complications where you think you have all the answers, but then it's still not easy for everybody.
Right. So we get the Turbo negative, and then the very next thing is a positive where Penelope for the first time uses her glitch as in her benefit.
Yep.
Instead of it working against her, she uses it to her
pass him. She glitches ahead of him.
She passes him again and races on. A bug comes out of the road and drops in front of the king, which is a positive, because we're like, yes, he's out of the picture now. And she's racing. That's a positive. Then right almost immediately after that is a negative, where the bugs come out and prevent her from...
Did the bug eat King Candy at that point?
You don't ever see. You don't ever
see. But that kind of think he did by what happens at the end.
But it's implied that's what happened.
Right.
And so then the bugs come out of the race, prevent her from finishing the race, a negative. Then they swarm everywhere. And they
try to leave.
They don't have any other choice, and they try to leave. And they set up this glitches can't leave the game thing early on.
That was set up a couple of times, yeah.
And then when they get there, they don't mention it again until they're trying to run out, and she can't go. And you're like, oh, okay, that's right. They talked about that in the beginning. That's like so many things set up this.
And so now the difficult dilemma, the impossible choice, the best of, or the, how's it go? Not the best of two evils. The best of two bad choices is another thing. And so they have to now either, because the commando woman, she has to either nuke the game or let the virus spread and wipe out all the games.
Right.
And when they nuke the game, she can't go through, so she has to die. So they have to sacrifice her for the greater good.
Right.
Unless somebody does something amazing.
Right. And so that's where Ralph, he looks at what's going on and he says, I think I can fix this. And for the second time in the movie, he goes and wrecks something on purpose.
Yep.
Because that is his thing. That's what he does. And he goes and he starts pounding on that Mentos thing. And then we have the reveal again, which is kind of a double negative now, because Ralph is trying to sacrifice himself. Then we have King Candy come back, or Turbo come back.
He's been transformed by the bug arc.
Right. And so they have a fight, and they have that all is lost moment where he's hanging Ralph up in the air. Ralph sees that the bugs are about to get Penelope, and then he makes the decision to sacrifice himself to save his friend, and starts dropping again. And this is where the quote from the beginning of the movie that was a throwaway quote comes back, and is so powerful, because in essence, it is what Ralph is, and it makes this whole thing possible. I am bad, and he's holding the medal that Penelope gave him, because he doesn't care about his actual medal. Now the medal represents his friendship with Penelope, and that's worth more than any medal that he could have. Yep. And he's coming to terms with who he is and what he does, and that's okay with him. And he's having this whole emotional closure arc moment as he's getting ready to sacrifice himself to save Penelope. And that the quote, he repeats it again, and it's just, man, it's like a gut punch emotionally as he's doing this. And then he goes through the Mentos Mountain. Everything's falling down to the ground, and for the second time, Penelope glitches. And
on purpose.
on purpose and saves his life. So we've got both characters doing the things that are the bad thing that they do, but are in their nature, that are saving the day. Basically, Ralph is wrecking and Penelope is glitching. And we see the beacon go up. We already know because of the reset in Hero's Duty that the bugs are attracted to the beacon, and they turn around. And because Turbo is now part bug, he's also attracted to the beacon, and they all go in there. And it's just a very well done ending that, again, is surprising but completely inevitable, because it
yeah, absolutely
in any other way.
Yep.
And then of course Penelope crosses the finish line and resets the game, and then we fixes the code. We learn that she's the queen and princess. Then the princess, right? And but then she says, that was me, but I'm not that anymore. I'm this, and becomes the glitch, becomes a special. She
decides to do it her own way, live her own life, make her own choices.
She turns her disability into a gain for her. And again, I just the way the story is told and presented, especially when it comes to the ending, the culmination of all these events and all these questions, just so well done. It's amazing.
I even go back and scoop up all of the little cast-asides like Hubert and all those who had lost their games.
Right.
And it puts them in the bonus level.
Right.
And then, yeah.
It's if you haven't watched it, I would, well, we've spoiled it all for you now, but this channel's for writers, not fans of movies.
Yeah.
If
you have to pay the price.
Yes.
Damn it.
If you're looking on ways to up your game in terms of story, structure, and elements, and ways to make your ending phenomenal, watch Wreck-It Ralph and take notes on where they do, because it's easier to watch a movie, in my opinion, than it is to read a book and make notes of where everything happens in the book. But you can easily break
story is story, and that's one of the things. And I guess that's our part, is then to put that in a different medium than is in the in the visual medium.
Right.
It's also a really great way of showing how you use plot to make you care about the characters.
Yes.
Because all of and you care about them because the choices they made. And I've always thought that giving your characters hard choices is what makes them more real. It's not doing a character sheet and knowing everything they wear, and that they wear corduroy pants and they double knot their shoes,
right,
and they smoke a pipe, and all those details. That's fine, but that does not make you care about them. What makes you care about the characters is what they do. 100%. And why they do it. And so I think that in this case, it really is a great time between character. We have the discussion character or plot. Well, it's the same.
Right.
I've seen that a lot lately, and people that say that character is plot, and vice versa, if you follow it that way.
Well, I think that was like a perfectly timed episode and conversation about the story.
That can't be. That can never be allowed to stand.
Could not have planned it any better, even if I hadn't planned it, which I didn't.
We didn't do an ad read or.
I do. I do have a show sponsor this time. This episode of Keystroke Medium is brought to you by E-Day by Nicholas Sansbury Smith. It is the newest science fiction novel from Nicholas Sansbury Smith, the author of Helldivers. We've had him on the show before. He's a fantastic writer. The tagline for this is, the most advanced soldiers in human history are about to become obsolete. Artificial intelligence is our last hope for saving the war-ravaged Earth in this near-future science fiction thriller from the apocalyptic mind of New York Times bestselling author Nicholas Sansbury Smith. Engines, genetically modified warriors that keep the Great Nova Alliance war machine churning against the enemy coalition. Most days, engines are all that stand between salvation and chaos, led by legendary engine Captain Akira Hayasha, Shadow Squad has fought on the front lines for a decade. They are on the brink of victory when the Coalition launches a series of desperate and devastating attacks that cripple the Nova Alliance restoration sites vital to save the dying planet. As the sites burn and Earth's hope of salvation fades, Shadow Squad is equipped with neural implants to connect them to the Hyperion, the first hybrid human AI entity. She is coded for what Captain Haisha believes is an impossible task: peace. But war isn't the only threat to Earth. Aperon has uncovered a deadly secret with implications that could end all life. This rapidly approaching threat can be stopped only if humanity bands together on what will become known as E-Day, a pivotal moment that will determine the evolution or the extinction of the entire human race. That's E-Day by Nicholas Sansbury. It's only $1.99 right now on Amazon. I put the link
for I think it's till the 15th, so that sale's ending. Also, the audiobook
it's ending in a couple of days then.
Yeah. Also, I believe the audiobook's read by R.C.Ray, so audiobook fans should definitely give that one a try.
Nice.
I think R.C. Bray did Helldivers.
Did do Helldivers?
Yeah. That's like a superstar combination right there.
I mean, honestly,
Nick Smith and
with R.C. Bray. I'd listen and read the phone book.
Yeah, very excited about that series.
Salmon of Valor, Valor of Salmon. Yeah,
Valor of Valor.
Horse head. That's true. One day we'll get Valor of Valor. True, James. Welcome. James was late to the show. Well, I'm going to call him out just because I'm.
No, he was in there earlier.
No, I'm sure he was late.
when you hear you're late here now. Whenever you get here, you're on time.
That's right. Wizard is never late, Harry. How many people did I just trigger there? Okay. Everybody, thanks for coming and hanging out with us today on this great Tuesday afternoon. I hope your writing week is fantastic and you get those words written. If you are looking for a community of writers to hang out with, Keystroke Medium on Facebook is a great place to come and hang out. That's where we do all of our community
friends.
Is on our Facebook group. We also have a website, keystrokemedium.com. If you're in need of some writer's caffeine, some coffee, we sell coffee on our website, keystrokemedium.com/coffee. Writer's block is my favorite, and I'm pretty sure it's everybody else's favorite too. You can pick up a bag of your own, and it helps support the show. So there you go. You get some great writing fuel, which incidentally we have a blend called Word Fuel, and you can support the show and help Scott stay bald.
Yeah, it's important. Razors ain't cheap. Just throw it out there. Josh knows this because he didn't even shave anything.
That's right. Nothing at all. Everybody, thank you again. If you're listening on the audio version, come and hang out with us in a live show on Tuesdays ish. And we have a great time. We will be back next week. We're going to talk about some reading and some writing and, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. See ya.
Peace.